sound set.
Welcome to a special edition of Disruptive FM. Cannes Lions Recap. Featuring exclusive interviews from the Festival of Creativity. Presented by Microsoft and Branding Strategy Insider with your host, Jeffrey Colon.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a special episode of Disruptive FM. I'm Jeffrey Colon, your host. And as you may have noticed, we've been away for a couple of weeks. Part of that time for a much-needed vacation, but part of it launching a new video show, Future Boutique, at the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity. It was an amazing week on the French Riviera, catching up with some old friends, making a lot of new ones, and learning about all the coming trends for the marketing and advertising business. So we thought it would be a good idea to create a special edition of DFM and share highlights from some of the key interviews we did in Cannes with a few brilliant thinkers in our industry. Now, without question, AI was the big topic on everyone's lips at the festival. What is AI really? How can marketers harness its power? And are AI and the creative world two mutually exclusive yachts that pass in the harbor? The answer may surprise you. For insight, we turn to Doug Gould, who is part of Microsoft's global partnerships team focused on experience innovation. Here's a portion of that interview. So, Doug, what does AI mean for creatives?
So at a really high level, and this is coming from a lot of the work that I do with agencies as a partner that I work with, we see this as being an incredible opportunity for creatives because they're going to be served in two ways by AI. AI, one, gives them a lot more touch points in order to get their creative out into the world. You're thinking of voice and bots and dynamic content. That's all going to need creative. So it provides an awesome opportunity for creatives to do work, which is what they love. And then the other piece of it is AI is going to help serve the creatives in the sense that providing, as a muse, it could give them inspiration. It can bring the teams together in a way that might not have happened organically, like with what we've done with Publicis and Marcel. So I think it's a really exciting time to be a creative because of AI versus maybe what the narrative has been, which is that AI could mean doom and gloom for the role of creative. I'm incredibly excited about the role of creative, and I'm not even a creative person.
I was just going to say that was the narrative for so many years, that creativity was just over, it was going to be automated, that the machines were going to take over. So basically, you're saying that creativity is going to thrive a lot more as a result of AI. What were some of the other points you brought up today in your discussion to the festival?
So one way we look at it is around platform thinking, right? So essentially, if you're going to be creating an experience, that's not going to be living in a silo. No longer is in-store just the physical store. In-store is being tied to what somebody might be doing with a voice assistant at home and what their mobile app is doing and what their web presence looks like. So one big thing we wanted a lot of folks to walk away with was the idea of a platform and building a brand as a platform and all the technology components that are going to go into that. I think here at Microsoft, we have a point of view around digital transformation, and how can that be articulated in marketing comes down to what's the platform that we have and how are we using technology to drive an amazing experience from that standpoint of a platform.
Now, someone who saw your talk today told me that you had a killer stat that everyone should know about. What is that killer stat in terms of, how we should apply that?
Yeah, so the stat is over $1 trillion will be taken by firms that end up integrating AI within their strategy. I think it was by past 2020. And so what that means essentially is that that's the opportunity cost for companies and brands if they're not going to be doing things thinking about what AI can mean for their business. So that's money that is literally sitting there for the taking, and that if you're a brand or a company or client of Microsoft's that is sitting there thinking this is the future or this might not be something that we can directly do today, the tools are all there and people are already getting started. So I think it really creates that sense of urgency. And then for the creatives and the folks on the agency side that we work with, it shows them to really help build that point of view so they can go and translate this to their clients that might not necessarily feel that urgency. I think we're mutually aligned with the agencies to bring our clients up and take them towards this digital future. So by working together with the agencies, we help them understand and capitalize on that over $1 trillion opportunity because they want to be on the winning side of that versus on the losing side.
That was an interview from Cannes Lions 2018 with Doug Gould, global black belt here at Microsoft. Now, while AI was very important and a big discussion in 2017 and this year in 2018 at Cannes, diversity and inclusion, also known as D&I, was also a huge discussion. I got to sit down and talk with a creative leader in the space, Danielle Trivisonno-Hawley, Chief Creative Officer at Possible. Let's take a listen.
I mean, the best ideas come from different points of view. So the more diverse your base of talent is and the more differences of opinion you have in a room, technically it's better business sense because you're going to get to different ideas. And when you have a variety of ideas to choose from, you're ultimately in a better space. We're in the business of doing better ideas. And the more diverse your talent is, the more diverse your ideas are going to be.
Now, the subject of pay. There's so much transparency now. You can almost look up what people are making at particular companies. There's things like Glassdoor. How do we, shrink those barriers so that we're actually making headway? Since the fact is women are getting paid a lot less to do the same jobs as male creatives.
Sure. I mean, one of the greatest things I think has happened in New York and California is they can no longer ask what you made before they're ultimately offering you a new job. I think, the salary history factor is a big deal so that we at least start from a level playing field instead of considering, how much can I get this person for? We start to really think about what's market value for the role and then who's the best person for that job. Immediately that changes, I think, the conversation altogether. And I also think that companies, Salesforce is doing a really great job of fixing their pay gap, but they're also constantly doing it. As they acquire more and more companies, they realize that it's a rolling system because the more companies you acquire, then you have the problem again. So I think knowing the data and actually allowing yourself the chance to go and find out, do we have a pay gap issue? What do we do about it? How much would it cost to fix it? How much time is it going to take to fix that? And ultimately being transparent with your employees and your potential candidates along the way.
Now, what's one thing that we can do to embrace D&I? One action that you want to speak to the audience about that we can take into the world and actually act upon?
I think that we've certainly come a long way with the conversation around gender. The 3% conference, See It, Be It, Time's Up advertising. We're getting there in terms of the gender gap. And then we're starting to talk about how it's not just about gender, it's about diversity. But I think one of the missing audiences is people living with disabilities. And I know it's important to Satya Nadella. It's important to organizations like Tommy Hilfiger. And we're starting to see that it's 1 in 5 Americans. It's bad business not to consider the fact that you're not speaking to an audience with buying power. I mean, it's not just a feel-good thing. It's actually smart business to think about not only gender, not only diversity, but people with disabilities as the whole package of diversity and inclusivity.
Some wise words in discussion with Danielle Trivisonno-Hawley, Chief Creative Officer at Possible, about how diversity and inclusion strengthens your creativity in the 21st century. Speaking of the 21st century, there is no better person that embodies the future than Google's Abigail Posner. I met with Abigail at Advertising Week New York in the fall of 2016, and we've been pretty close ever since. Abigail is a strategic planner and works well with media buyers because she explains to them how humans behave in a world overtaken by machines. This is a unique conversation on topics we both love, which are fashion and technology. Let's take a listen.
When you have something like technology that's taking up so much of the headspace, people are nervous. But I'm so excited by what technology can offer, particularly in fashion, because of a few reasons. One is, no question that even though machine learning, which at its core really looks at massive amounts of data, right, and starts showing you themes or trends with data, even though it is highly technical, the creative process doesn't stop there, right? It just starts there. So what it does is it allows us to do all that stuff that we don't normally want to do because it takes so much time. It does it for us, and then we can actually analyze it. So imagine if you could look at all of these trends in a nanosecond. And you could, it's not predictive, but you can start seeing like, ooh, people are starting to get interested in a certain color. Or people are starting to get interested in a certain look or a certain cut, or maybe it's unisex, or maybe it's hypersexual, right? We get a sense of that in such a short amount of time thanks to something like machine learning that can look across so many pieces of data. The other thing that's interesting is that it actually allows us to be more creative in that it can start making permutations for us, right? Before we even know what would sell, what we could do is because it analyzes what people do and what people are interested in, imagine it could take certain cuts, certain styles, certain sizes, certain colors, and create thousands of different permutations, offer that back to people, and see what people are interested in. And through that, then designers know what to create and know what will sell. Right? I mean, so much lands on the cutting room floor, and we're stuck holding the bag, right? And spending tons of money, investing tons of money in styles that end up failing. In this case, you actually can learn from machine learning and only put out there that which, we know will work.
It's funny you bring this up because we're seeing lots of direct-to-consumer Instagram brands, specifically in fashion now, almost trying to use this model where they're not making 1 billion pairs of shoes. They might actually be getting orders and saying, all right, we're going to make 100 of those. And then people are able to actually personalize that. How does it change? How does all of this machine learning change the personalization game for direct-to-consumer small fashion brands?
Well, personalization is interesting because on the one hand, I think I know what I like. And like Nike ID, right? Like I can pick this color, I can pick this shape, whatever. But sometimes we don't even know what we like until we see it created for us. We need to be inspired. And so what machine learning can do is not just target you and know exactly what to feature for you, but also sees the patterns of your behavior and says, you know what? She likes this color, she likes this kind of style, she has this kind of attitude, she has this kind of job. Let's create something through all of that data that reflects who she is, and she may not have even designed it herself because she didn't know what to even imagine, and we're imagining it for her. And that's really what fashion is all about. It's about inspiration, about creativity, right? And even if the machine learning creates an algorithm that can somehow create these different permutations of ideas, it's still up to the human being to look at it and figure out, is this going to work? Is this on trend? Does this feed the social norms that we're living in? Does this reflect social values? I mean, machine learning can't do that. And we all know that. And none of my techie friends expect that. We expect a partnership.
Abigail Posner, head of strategy for Google, with some great insights there on the future of fashion, retail, and marketing. Now, when we think futurist or visionary, this man often comes to mind. He's arguably the inventor of guerrilla marketing and certainly someone who was disruptive long before it was a buzzword. I'm talking about the legendary Jon Bond, and it's always a thrill to sit down with him. So, with everyone talking about all the change that has come to the agency world, what are the problems it faces, and what does a future business model look like?
The real problem is this lawyer in Boston in 1918 who started billing by the hour. And that creates a disconnect between the value of what I deliver and how many hours I worked if I were a window washer or something. And that's what screwed up the whole business. So I think now more and more marketing is measurable every day. And what that means is the agency should get rewarded for the results. And every industry where people get rewarded for results has this huge delta between the highest paid stars and the low performers. But in advertising, that because it's by the hour, no matter how good you are, you're going to get that much, right? A little bit more than somebody else. But look, on Wall Street or Hollywood or anything like that, or as I always say, if you could only have bit parts, no one would be a waitress while they're trying to get an acting gig, right? So I think that there'll be a resurgence in the industry, and they'll be able to reward the star performers who create value for the client, and that's going to be the next golden age in the business.
Wow. Now, do you think if agencies built some more intellectual property, they'd be more valuable? Because, like you said, you're just billing time, it seems like. You don't really have much IP. So is that like an area that you're sort of now concentrating on a little more?
Oh, the area I'm concentrating on is the IP is me. because that I understand. Now, I'm doing a lot of work directly with emerging brands where I might invest some money and be the part-time marketing creative director, and then as the company increases in value, someone buys it, Microsoft, I don't know, and then I get a return on the value I helped create, so actually what I'm doing is a new model, but it's actually philosophically closer to what the agency business was when I got into it.
Now, you are notorious for the pop-up shop, guerrilla marketing, all these really cool things and trends that have sort of come back around because marketing's like cyclical. You know, what excites you about sort of seeing some brands use things you did 35, almost 40 years ago?
Oh, nothing. It gets me mad that I didn't get some patent or some royalty. No, that stuff doesn't excite me because, look, I always want to do the next thing because I don't want to compete with 100 people doing the same thing, frankly. But if you do the next thing that's too far out, there's no business there. So it's like, you look at the weather. The weather forecast is a little worse each day. You just want to predict the weather one day ahead of everyone else. And that's really what I look for. The thing that's just about to hit, but not everyone knows about it quite yet.
And we have no doubt that whatever that is, Jon has a finger on it. That was a wild interview with Jon Bond, chief tomorrowist who founded and built up the agencies KBS and Big Fuel to sell them off to holding companies MDC and Publicis, respectively. All right, that's it for this special edition of Disruptive FM. We'll look back at the 65th Cannes Lyons Festival of Creativity. For the full interviews with these and many more guests, be sure to check out our new show, Future Boutique, presented by Microsoft. We're super excited about it. We have 3 episodes that we shot in Cannes, and you can see them at youtube.com/Bing Ads or soon on Microsoft.com. We'll be back next week with our regularly scheduled programming. For everyone here at DFM, I'm Jeffrey Colon. Thanks, and we'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to Disruptive FM with Microsoft Communications designer Jeffrey Colon. All thoughts are his own. Disruptive FM is produced in Los Angeles by Feeler Media.